There we go. And hello and welcome to our live Q&A. And this evening I'm joined by Suzanna Goddard, and Suzanne has a yoga company called Sheglow Yoga. And she's come to talk to us tonight about how yoga can fit in, just any questions really around yoga and how you can use yoga and what are the benefits, etc. So I'm going to hand you over to Suzanne. Suzanne's going to do a bit of an intro and then we're going to throw it open to questions, although there's only a few of us tonight. Doesn't matter. Have a little chat about it and see how we get on. So over to you. I'm going to pop everyone else on mute if that's okay. Just for now. There we go. So it's just you.
Alrighty, well, hi everyone, and it's nice to see those of you that have come along. So, well, the reason why I got in touch with Nikki really, or I think I put a post on one of the Facebook things about the interview with Anna Croy, because I listened to it and there was a lot of questions coming up about exercise and then specifically yoga. And I know she was saying, look, I don't really know that much about yoga, and so, you know, this is what I would say maybe you can do. And so I just thought I'd offer my input. I've been teaching yoga specifically for women for 10 years now. So the yoga that I teach is safe for all kinds of phases of life, whether you're you know, pregnant or postnatal or perimenopausal, or, you know, or whatever's gone on, you know, even women that have that are recovering from cancer and that sort of thing. And the idea for me is the reason why I only teach yoga for women is because women's bodies do different things to men's bodies. So in a hypopressive sense, we know that hypopressives can absolutely be beneficial for men as well, but there are just certain conditions that women will have that men won't have, and that's going to impact everything you do in life. And so for those that do have a hypopressive practice, I know you want to do other things, and I know that, you know, and even I get this so often, somebody coming to me and saying, look, my GP's recommended yoga and here I am. And so even medical professionals know that it's beneficial, but they're not really going to be able to steer you in the right direction in terms of which yoga class to attend, or even just sort of which yoga instructors to go and seek help from, especially if you're new to yoga, if you've never done it before. So yeah, so that's just what I thought, you know, just to come on and take some questions if anybody is thinking about doing yoga, or maybe they've had that from somebody, you should do yoga is really good, but they don't really know where to start or what that means or what yoga is even.
Yeah, so if you had someone coming to you and saying, you should, you know, someone's told me I should do yoga, how would you kind of explain the key benefits of it?
So the key benefit, I mean, for me, I would actually just kind of take a step back and talk about the differences, because yoga and Pilates, for example, are often banded together very often, or somebody will say it's similar to Pilates but maybe not as much as this, or it's different in this way but it's kind of like Pilates, or it's kind of like this. So the difference is with yoga is obviously that there is the physical practice is only one small aspect of yoga, of the whole, the entirety of what yoga is. And so for me, why I think that's beneficial, especially if you have got pelvic floor dysfunction, is that whatever you do on your mat is almost secondary to all the other things that you could do, like your breathing, like your meditation, like your relaxation. And then, you know, just kind of even emotionally and psychologically, what's going on with your mind and your body and how those two come together. So it's the mind-body connection. So biomechanically, we know how the body works, but we also know that there are nerves and the brain, and it's all connected, and that has got an emotional impact on your life and vice versa.
Yeah, the emotional side is massive, and that's one of the areas that Anna kind of touches on as well when we were talking in the interview about possibly if someone has had a traumatic event. So it doesn't have to be a giving birth. It could be an operation. It can be abuse. It can be they've been attacked. It can be various different things that will cause severe emotional problems in that area.
Yes.
So is obviously the practice of yoga, you talk about what you do on the mat, but it's about getting someone to kind of almost change their lifestyle.
Yes, it's about understanding how what your body feels is very much connected to what has happened to you in life, or that connection, you know, like you've just said, if you've gone through a trauma or anything, it could have been a car accident, you know, things are stored inside your connective tissue and inside your cells and everything. And for women, I always say, because we just have so many more pelvic organs than men, and then, you know, we know that we're going through these cycles every month and in our life, that more often than not, that is going to have an impact on that area in our body, that we know about, or that we really think about. I think it's bringing the two together. We can so often place the physical over here and then everything else over there, and I think that's what people then makes people a little bit wary of yoga. Or I don't know about all the spiritual stuff, and I don't want to be, you know, chanting and doing, and it's not about that. It's about understanding that intrinsically the human being has got an emotional state, and it does have an impact on how you feel physically, or what you do physically to yourself will have an emotional impact as well.
So for example, we were kind of talking, and I always kind of talk about how most women who have some form of prolapse or some form of dysfunction or weakness in the abdominal and the pelvic area will tend to be gripping and holding.
Yes.
And unfortunately, because of conventional or traditional pelvic floor treatment, they also teach you to grip and hold. And so you've got an area where there's lots going on that needs to be fixed, as well as lots going on emotionally. And when you're feeling emotional in an area of your body, it tends to cause tension. And so all of these things we really don't need. When you've got something like a prolapse, you need to be able to relax and let go. And so I suppose a bit like with hypopressives, that rhythmical nature of your practice in that 10-15 minutes that you're doing it allows you to relax. But then if you know that there's still lots of tension, so we'll come on to you in a minute, Amanda, but we were talking quite a lot about this in one of the sessions, that there may be other stuff that you need to do to be able to release that, but it's finding what it is rather than doing 100 different things and actually making yourself feel worse about it because nothing seems to be working. So you don't need to bark.
Absolutely. And I think that's where it's difficult for people to know what is the right class for me. Or you go yoga, what type of yoga. You go onto YouTube and my gosh, there's like 100 different videos that pop up and whatever you put in the search bar. And it's avoiding that. It's avoiding layering tension onto tension, you know, continuously. You really want something to release the tension, but then also so in yoga we have a term for this, but it's really about softening to go deeper and to get stronger. So, you know, in the yoga that I've been trained in and my background and training, it was don't push so hard. You know, your body won't respond if you just, you know, tighten it like an elastic band. You have to release, and then you can go deeper, and then you will build strength. So it is knowing, well, what do I ask an instructor? This is so you know what you need and you know what you want, but you're not sure how you're going to make sure that's what you get. And
that's a bit of a lottery with just women's health in general. I mean, I just think that unfortunately the women of the UK aren't necessarily being served very well by their professionals, and
Yes.
it's about time we all stood up and said that's not good enough.
Yeah.
Kegels don't work for me, and here we go, I'm back on Kegels again.
Definitely.
It's supposed to be
Definitely.
about yoga and I'm back on Kegels. But, I mean, I do think that it's the case. I did a taster session this morning. I had 6 people on there. 4 of those people had a prolapse, and they've all been told do your Kegels, and none of them, and they've all at different stages, none of them had any benefit from doing it, but yet they're going back and they're going back and they're trying different physios, and the different physios are still giving them the same
advice.
So it is bonkers, really. But it like you say, it's for a lot of people it's kind of knowing what they need, really, and then adding in extra stuff as they work out what they need.
Exactly.
So what is the type of yoga that you teach?
So I teach a vinyasa flow yoga.
Okay.
I'm actually currently studying for my extra 100 hour, which is in a style known as core strength vinyasa yoga. But when we say core strength, it's the core that we know, and in hypopressives that we talk about. And so it will be all the style of yoga that I teach is intrinsic to you as a woman, looking after your core and knowing how it functions and knowing what makes you. So you will, and this is the thing, there are so many different styles, and there will also be some gyms that offer yoga, and so it's knowing what am I going to ask, because you might have a fantastic instructor that's teaching at a gym, but you kind of need to make sure that they're going to look after you. So what I would say firstly is, if you have got pelvic floor dysfunction or you have a prolapse, is if it's not on a form, I mean, I have it as part of my questions, do you have a prolapse? Have you ever suffered with prolapse? If that is not on the form that you are asked to fill out before the class, I would definitely inform your yoga instructor and tell them, I have this is what I'm working with. I do hypopressives. Because what you would want is them to come back and ask, if they haven't heard of hypopressives, what is this? That's really interesting. And also ask you about it, because somebody coming to me, even with my background, if I have that tick on my form, I'll want to know details. I want to know how long it's been. What are you doing? Are you having any other treatment? So I think it's just knowing the red flags. If there's no comeback from you putting that out there to them, then it's not going to be the right class for you.
No, I think that is unfortunately a bit of a gap that's in our industry, the fitness industry per se, is that we don't really look after women that well. Women are told at how many weeks they go to their doctor, and they're told they're fit to exercise, or how many weeks after an operation they're told they're fit to exercise, without really being given any rehab. And you've got someone who's used to going to the gym, used to doing all that stuff, and they just want to get back to it. They want to get back to their normal yoga, they want to get back to everything, without really thinking about whether they should be or not, and what the rehab process is. But I think that the only way we're going to get a better treated, better educated, and more rehab is just to be going to our doctors and saying, all you keep doing is referring me to people that give me Kegels. They don't work. You need to look at other alternatives, or going to our professionals, going to our gyms and saying, your yoga instructor didn't even ask me about any of these issues. And maybe it is up to us to kind of say, I've got these issues, but I know that a lot of women are really embarrassed about it. And if they knew they had to go and actually physically say to someone in a yoga class, oh, by the way, I've got a prolapse, or by the way, I've got incontinence, then it would be almost too much and they would never go.
I mean, and it could even just be something along the lines of, I have, if you had a hernia, it would be a similar situation. It would be, for me, it would be similar adjustments that I'd be giving somebody if they if they've got an abdominal hernia or if they've ever had a hernia before.
Mm.
So it's just knowing that, you know, whoever you're approaching, to say, I need this to be gentle, I need this to work for my body. And, you know, you'll know immediately if you're getting a blank stare, or, you know, you can see panic in their eye setting in. And I would avoid doing it on the day. And luckily, where we are now with COVID, we were saying let's find the positives, but where we are now, you're going to have some kind of online or email conversation with an instructor before you go to class, because there's so much more protocol going on. So to have that conversation before.
That we're not more regulated, that, you know, people can go through a personal training qualification like I did and do a module in our qualification that is pre and postnatal and really know nothing, because I really didn't, and then be training people like these guys, and not having really a clue about how much damage they're doing and what effect they're having on that person. And really, for me, it was only, you know, I was fortunate in that I trained around the time that I was trying to sort my own issues out, and I thought, hang on, I'm giving these people these exercises to do, they seriously aren't going to be helping them, so I need to find out how I can find something that is going to be more beneficial for them, or more effective, or not make, you know, keep them safe, basically.
Exactly.
But unfortunately our industry isn't really regulated enough from that respect, and we kind of go on what the medical profession tell us is the protocol, which is, you know, if you have a vaginal birth, you go and you do your 6-week check. The focus is not really on the woman, it's more on the baby, and there's no rehab whatsoever. 100% there should be rehab. 100% from day one there should be rehab, and it should be a 6 treatment process or 6-month process. I think 6 months of
6 months,
you know, making sure that someone is getting them into good habits and doing stuff that's going to be beneficial to them, and not just saying, oh, you're good to go now, off you go, get your running shoes on, or get your yoga outfit on, or get your, you know, weight training gear on. It's bonkers, you know. So many women just don't have a clue because of the system we're in. But I think until we, you know, make a change, then that's not going to change. Even the way that new personal trainers are coming in, it's not going to change. Well, we've gone off topic slightly. So we had a question in one of my groups. I'm trying to think who it was. It was from Claire, I think. Let me just double check. Should have written her name down. 2 seconds. It's here. Yes, it was from Claire, who's been doing my beginners group. And Claire asked, what are the key considerations for practicing yoga with a prolapse?
Okay, so your key considerations would be to not exert any undue pressure, obviously, and downward pressure to the pelvis, which would be, or like we said, adding tension. So you're going to be looking for a class or a practice. I mean, I know you can get really good instructors and videos and things on YouTube, but I would always just advise caution. If you have got a prolapse, try and go to a physical class, especially, or even if it's on Zoom, with somebody that you can speak to beforehand, because it's so easy to jump into something and then all of a sudden you're just being swept along and you're not really sure, you know, you didn't know beforehand what that meant. So to go to a class, first of all, or to, even if you're doing something online, make sure you can speak to that person. And you can use your own adjustments. Putting your knees down is going to be the biggest adjustment I can ever tell you in everything. Just if there's something that feels strong, just put your knees down. And it could even be a downward dog. You can have a knees down downward dog for all your life. It really doesn't matter. It's still yoga. So because you can have a gentle hatha. So hatha is very popular at the moment, but hatha is a very broad term. So in yoga, hatha really means the physical practice of yoga, of the postures. So a hatha class could be anything. You don't really know what you're going to get. You know you're going to do something physical. Normally in the UK, if you see hatha, it's probably going to be more gentle and more on the gentle side.
Okay.
However, we do have the sun salutation, and the series of a sun salutation will take you through a plank if they're doing a traditional sun salutation, which you're not going to do if you have a prolapse. So you're going to put your knees down. I'd like to think if you've told your instructor that you have some kind of pelvic floor dysfunction, they're going to cue that anyway.
Yeah.
However, if not, put your knees down in your plank, in your chaturanga when you're going down to the mat, knees down all the time. And to not get swept along, and to don't skimp on that or feel like you have to do something. And I think this is the other thing about group exercise. You're looking around and you're seeing everybody else do certain things, and you think, oh gosh, you know, that person's got their foot behind their ear and all sorts of things, and
Always.
what am I doing?
Yeah.
I've been practicing yoga for many years, and my personal practice is a knees down practice, because I know what my body likes.
Yeah.
And I'm not any weaker for it. You know, my core's strong, I can do most things. So it's all about knowing you. And if you know that this is what you need, and that's yoga as well. So if you're going to a reputable class and an instructor, they'll be telling you all of this. It's not about everybody else, it's about what you're doing for your body.
Yeah.
So knees down is my first big one. And then nothing too dynamic. You know, an Ashtanga class is something, and it varies. There's certain areas where Ashtanga is bigger. I would say the big cities like London, Manchester, you know, those sort of big city areas, you'd always get Ashtanga studios, because it's your Madonna yoga. So I don't know if anybody remembers when Madonna went through her yoga phase, or she probably still does yoga, but she went through a big kind of, you know, rocking out her yoga, and it was just Ashtanga, because it's very physical and you get really strong really quickly, and it's lots of arm balances, but they actually cue a pelvic floor hold and lift and engagement throughout the whole class, which, you know, is bonkers. We're not going to do that. But to go through just briefly the history of Ashtanga was for teenage boys, to make them stronger. So that pelvic floor lift would be in a male sense, not in a female sense, but it's the West, right? We've taken yoga and we've just kind of gone, oh yeah, that sounds great, let's hold our pelvic floor and make ourselves really strong. So a lot of the history has been skewed, and that's where it comes from. So nothing wrong with Ashtanga, it's a really great practice, but not if you have pelvic floor dysfunction or prolapse, right? Yeah. So you're going to be looking for your hatha. You're going to look for your flow classes. Flow is fine as long as you take your knees down, cue. And to make sure that you know what this class is going to be from week to week. So you don't want to go to a flow yoga class and then you've been going for a few weeks and you've loved it, and then you rock up and the instructors decided to do a core, like, you know, abs heavy, like let's work out your core, and you're doing because I know a lot of yoga instructors will incorporate Pilates into their classes, and you're all of a sudden doing all these Pilates legs and things like that on the mat, right? So it's also knowing, is this how it is? Is this you? Can I come here every week? So again, you need to have that conversation. Yeah. But there is no harm in just lying there. If you're on the mat and you're lying on your back and somebody's telling you to do scissor legs and all this sort of thing, just lie down. Because nobody's looking at you, they're doing their own thing.
Well, I suppose hopefully if you have been a few times and you've told the instructor what your limitations are, that there would be adjustments.
Yeah.
Sometimes it is just trial and error, really, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's not, you know, you'll know. I mean, I say this to everybody. Oh, I don't know which yoga class to go to. You go to and you find an instructor. Really, this is why yoga is so broad, I find, because you go to the person, you don't really go to the class, if that makes sense. So you'll find your person, but don't give up, because when you find it, the benefits are so great. And in terms, especially if you have got some kind of like we were saying before, tension, or maybe you're just in a really stressful job and you know that's sort of happening to, that is going to have an impact on what's happening with your pelvic floor and your core. So if you can release that and find a way that you can, I mean, you can just pick that up every day and do that for yourself. And I think it's, when you go to a class, you'll be looking for something like 10-minute breath work and then your yoga, you know, your physical, as opposed to just going to sit here and breathe for 2 minutes and off we go. Because it's that like we know in hypopressives, it's knowing your breath and letting your breath go. I mean, we know, as I said before, it's having the strength and the softness. So just like in hypopressives, we have that switch on and we know we have our postures, but the breath is free. The breath is expansive. The breath is doing its thing. And we're almost giving over to the breath to do the healing in the body. So a yoga breathing pranayama work is that. It's got to be that. So if you can have a class that's 10-minute breath or even 15 minutes, and then the rest of your physical, that's going to be amazing and really beneficial for any healing that you're trying to work through.
Yeah, I think that's most people's struggle, is allowing themselves enough time. Just the breath work. You know, I only teach hypopressives pretty much now, and people are always like, well, you know, your vacuum's amazing, so when's mine going to be like that? And mine doesn't look like that. I'm not doing it right. I get all this all the time, but then, you know, I've spent 7 or 8, 9 years now doing hypopressives regularly, and it just doesn't happen overnight. It was a nightmare to start with. It was a nightmare, and from a kind of emotional letting go point of view. And I probably at that point could have benefited from some meditation or some yoga, definitely, as well as, but I didn't. But so you know, it maybe took me longer to be able to relax everything because I didn't do that. But
and it's I mean, it's taken you that long because it's all that tension had to, you know, it's not just going to disappear overnight. And then, I mean, we all have life as well, so life continues and something might happen tomorrow and that adds more tension and more stress or whatever. So, you know, this is where, in it, for me, I just find yoga combined with hypopressives is like, it's like another tool in your toolbox. Absolutely. It's just adding all these amazing tools that you have that you can use. And because it is so broad and the practice is really personal, you can make it your own. You make it what you need it to be. If you can find, you know, just that initial, you know, somebody to guide you and to show you, it's really useful.
So, have we thrown up any questions there, Amanda?
Hi there. Well, it's really reassurance that I'm doing the right things, because I've actually been doing yoga for over 20 years, since my daughter was very small. For me, it's the kind of reverse thing, is that I'm trying to come back from doing things like Iyengar, which is obviously quite strenuous, and I'm trying to pull back from that. So I'm really pleased to hear what you said, because that's my gut instinct, is that I need to be much more gentle than that. And I was saying to Nikki the other day, I have found someone on YouTube who does a very gentle version, yoga with bird, and it's all very gentle stuff. So that's obviously the right thing to be doing. But it's interesting what you're saying about planks and chaturanga and all that stuff, and knees down. I haven't been doing that, so thank you for that.
You've got permission to do that,
Yeah.
Amanda.
Yeah, that's the thing. This is the problem with something
giving
like Iyengar, as you were saying, it's very competitive. It's that kind of yoga, a bit like Ashtanga.
And it's very linear. I think
yes.
it's finding your I mean, you know, my ladies laugh at me, but I waddle around on the mat, and you know, I just keep saying it's yoga, don't worry. I've just, you know, it's definitely because everybody's so used to a very linear style, and it's very prescriptive, which some people love. They like that can be meditative, obviously doing a similar sequence all the time, but it's probably not the best for a body that needs to heal, or you need to find your way, right? You need to, like I just said, you need back off to go deeper. So back off of yourself just a little bit, if you can.
What I was doing at one point was sort of was Nikki's 15 minutes of hypopressives, followed, well, either preceded or followed by a gentle yoga, 10 minutes of gentle yoga, and I think that's probably the right thing to be doing.
Yeah, definitely.
Because again, it's actually looking at it as rehab. It's looking at it as, yeah, okay, when you used to do yoga and you were used to doing all these strong things, that's fine, but in order to get back to there, we just need to take a few steps back and allow ourselves time to kind of recover and rehab, and then start adding in little extras that will make you feel like you've almost got back to where you were. The same with anything, you know. Unfortunately for me, like, injury has stopped me from doing running, etc. at the moment, but you know, I've only, last year it was only really the first time I'd managed to start to get back into running again. And you know, I think that the trouble being is that you then start to think, well, you know, I used to be able to run 10k and I used to do it in this time, and so off I go. And what you forget is that, you know, that was a few years ago, and that was before X, Y, and Z happened. And you've just got to accept that your body has been through a lot, and you've got to treat it really gently so that it lasts you to the last days. Really, you don't want to be going into hospital, having operations. You don't want to be you know, in a horrible situations, or not being able to, you know, being really unable to do stuff because you've kind of overdone it before. So
exactly,
just like listening.
I think also as mothers, we're so used to running around and being busy and overdoing everything. It's you have to talk to yourself about.
And I think also you know, trying to understand where your body is. So, you know, cycle wise, I know that as I'm coming up to my period, I cannot hold a chaturanga for however long, because I'm not as strong. I don't feel as, I feel heavy, I feel tired, I feel like I need to take it easy. But because we're so busy, like you just said, you're just rushing around, we don't feel that, or really feel it. We kind of, after you've done something, you go, gosh, that was really hard today. Why was that so hard? And you don't often make the connection. Or, you know, if you are perimenopausal or going through the menopause, you're going through a change, you're adjusting. So it's just giving your body time, instead of throwing something else in there, going, right, deal with this body. It's going, right, okay, let's just take it easy, because that's a lot going on now. And eventually you will feel stronger. And it sounds counterintuitive, but it will happen.
Yeah, I mean, I always say to people, train smarter, not harder. Yeah, because I actually have got to an age now where I don't really enjoy sweaty, hot, killing me type of classes. What are you barking at? The blinds are down and there's no one there, you silly dog. You're just barking in boredom, I think. He's fed up with listening to my voice today. But I do think that I've got to an age now where, I mean, in my 30s maybe, I do CrossFit and do mad crazy things and feel like I hadn't done a workout, I hadn't, you know, been bleeding from my eyeballs and, you know, all stupid things like that. And I just don't want to do that now. I'd rather get the results, but from doing a lot less. And I think that's the key for you as well, Amanda, is, you know, think about how you can do it smarter, something that's going to make you as a person feel so much better, so much healthier, but not feel like a failure because you haven't sweated from your eyeballs or bled from your eyeballs or whatever, or whatever it is that you get the buzz from. And also it's that competitiveness, but all you're doing is competing with yourself. So no one else really cares.
But there is that fine line between thinking, what should I be doing to help myself with my because I also broke my back and have rods in my back as well as the prolapse. So I've got these two things going on, and I'm thinking, well, what should I be doing to strengthen my body to be able to support these two issues? But then I shouldn't do too much. So it's just walking a tightrope, really.
Honestly, it's fine-tuning and tweaking and finding what works, really. But just being careful along the way. When we've had conversations before, it's just, actually being in the moment and finding that, yes, that is actually helping me. This thing here is actually helping me. Although I haven't got to where I want to be yet, it's helping me to get there, not even tuning into that and then taking something else and then not really knowing what it is.
What's helped,
it's helped you. So we've kind of had that. I think that's why sometimes it's better to strip it back and have a period where you go, for the next 6 weeks, 2 months, I'm just going to do this and this, and that's it, and then we'll see. And each day being really mindful, even keeping a diary where you write down how you feel, how it was after your session, what you felt good about, what you didn't feel so good about, or etc., and keep that as a daily thing, so that you, even if it's just a couple of sentences, so that you can look back on that and go, well, this is where I started and that's what I was saying, and here I am now. And if you're still saying the same thing, you think, well, actually maybe I'm not, this isn't the combination that I need, I might need to try something else, and go from there. But I think sometimes there's so much choice out there for us. There's so many bright, shiny things. It's what it's like when you go shopping. What it's like when you just search something on Google. You get hundreds of things pop up, and you don't really know from reviews or whatever what that thing's going to be like. So you have to actually give it time in the trenches on its own and work with it. And I think probably that if you've had yoga in your life for 20 years, then yoga is one of your things.
Oh yeah, yes.
It's just finding which bit that you need to do at the moment.
Yes, and that's
And your practice will change as you go. I actually, my first initial training, my first teacher training, whatever you want to call it, was Ashtanga based, and and at that time it was fine because I was really young and enthusiastic, and headstands were like the thing, and the be all and end all, and now I'm a proper yogi because I can stand on my head. But obviously as I've got older and I've had children and I've done more training and I've met so many women going through various things, which is how I found Hypopressives myself, it's like little light bulbs start going on, and you realize that, okay, and it doesn't mean that what you were doing it wrong, it just means that you're done with that now.
Things change.
That's not for now.
Can I just ask, sorry, something has come to mind. Do you actually ever incorporate the Hypopressives with your yoga practice, or is it completely separate? Do you do one then the other?
The actual hypopressive flow, I don't, because it's too precise, and I like to cue it properly when I'm doing it with somebody. I may, in a postnatal class, have a standalone 5 minutes where I'll go through hypopressive with them, but very small group. So in a general class, no, but I'm always talking about diaphragmatic breathing. I'm always talking about getting that breath body connection. So because you do hypopressives, you can, because you know what you're doing. I wouldn't, because I do in my personal practice, but I wouldn't in a class setting, because it wouldn't be right. I wouldn't be and I wouldn't be serving them properly if I was just going to throw it out there and them not really understanding what it was all about and what I wanted from them. So for you in your personal practice, 100%. And like you were saying, you were doing your hypopressives and then your yoga. You could finish your yoga, you could do a yoga practice and finish your yoga practice with your floor hypopressives, floor postures, you know, before you go into your shavasana. You can absolutely do that. Or you might just find yourself kneeling all fours and go, oh, hang on, let's do my hypopressives now, and then carry on. I mean, I do that in my personal practice, but I, you know, because you know what you're doing, so you can, definitely.
Thank you.
Awesome, great questions. So Hilary, how about you?
Hi. Well, I am a fan of Pilates. I've maybe been doing that for about 15 years. And I was introduced to that because I had back problem on the physio at work, said Pilates. So I started, and I think that's, well, obviously with me doing for that long a length of time, that's working for me.
Good.
And also I do a weekly class, which I missed in the pandemic, and went online, and I was quite itching for it to be back to an actual class, which it is. But to me, that opened up a social side as well, because we've all become really good friends and supported each other all about the same age. So I found something, I got another benefit from it, as well as the Pilates itself. Now, occasionally, if the instructor hasn't been ready, we've done yoga instead, and I find that a bit more, like you said, it is a flow, isn't it? I find them quite different, and I was sort of trying to get in a Pilates pose. I'm not flowing for yoga, so I found it quite different. So didn't think, maybe I might be wrong, do they complement each other, or I just feel they're two different things really, although similar position?
They do complement each other. It, again, I can't really speak on Pilates because I don't know enough about Pilates.
Okay.
So I wouldn't like to sit here and go, oh no, you know, Pilates and yoga, they don't go together, because I've never tried both. I've maybe done one Pilates class in my life. So, and I can only imagine maybe the same as yoga, there'll be different type styles of Pilates maybe, and what they do. So again, you could absolutely do the both together. The one thing I do know from ladies that come to my classes and go to Pilates is they like the balance. So so a yoga class kind of goes for full circle. So the idea is that you would start softly and you would build. Even if it's a gentle class, there would be some kind of peak or intention or something that you want to get from your practice in that particular hour or 20 minutes. And then you will come back down the mountain and, you know, make your way down and then finish reflecting on what you've just done. So I know a lot of my ladies who come to yoga and Pilates like that, because their Pilates is like, yes, this is what I like to do, and it's that set thing for them, but they enjoy the yoga because it takes them on a little bit of a journey every time.
I get that. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Great, awesome. So that's our questions. I can't ask you any more questions if you don't have them. Is there anything else that you, I mean, would there be any particular, I mean, obviously, are you doing stuff online or?
I do stuff online. I do, sometimes I throw things out on Facebook and Instagram. And I have an actual online hub that, you know, I've got a few free things going on there, and I have a subscription, you know, people can join like a yoga club, and I just put videos on there, and we do live streams and stuff. So I have lots online and in person. And so what I would say is, if you're looking for yoga, is to, like Nikki was saying before, try everything. Just take little nibbles of things. You'll know immediately if it's not for you. And so don't, I mean, and when I say try, we've already said, don't go to the dynamic 90-minute power yoga. You know, you normally yoga instructors are very good at describing their class, right? So telling you what it's about, hopefully. And then just try everything. Take little nibbles, because it will often be the instructor rather than the start. You might read something and go, oh, that sounds really odd and strange, and go and just fall in love with the teacher. So just try as many as you can and see what happens.
And if people wanted to try some of your stuff, then have you got some links you can send?
I've got links on my website. You can go and look at some links. On Facebook, on my Facebook page, I've got little clips. On Instagram as well, I've got little like IGTV stuff that is like a 20-minute, half an hour class. So, you know, if you're interested in seeing how I teach, you can definitely get a flavour of what that is on there, for sure.
Amazing, good. Well, hopefully some people that watch this afterwards will explore yoga a little bit more.
Yeah,
definitely. It's always interesting to understand all the different types there are, and I know in the past I have done something that's been really hard and really kind of hot and powerful, so that must be Ashtanga, is it?
Yeah, it might have been Ashtanga or just a dynamic flow, or so, you know, there's so many different names for these yoga classes. So and I think that's why it's such a minefield. But read the description.
I mean, I was doing yoga before I had my kids quite regularly, and it is about finding a person. And you know, you find your person and it's just amazing, just brilliant. And they make the class really.
Definitely.
And I've tried a few. I mean, I haven't gone back to yoga for a long time, but I remember going back to yoga 4 or 5 years ago, and just finding this group, and it was not very good at all. And I don't mean that she just wasn't my person. And the minute I walked into the room, I knew it wasn't going to be right for me, but I had to stay then. But
and most yoga teachers know that. Like, we all know that. We all know you're going to get new people coming, and maybe they come again, but if they drop off, you just weren't their person, and that's okay. You know, that's fine. That I'd rather somebody be there because they want to be there, not because there's no other option. I have, you know, I'm here again, but I'm really hating it.
With you.
Exactly. So nobody should. I mean, if they take offence, then obviously that's their thing. That's not your problem. But that shouldn't happen, and I doubt anybody would think any different if you did do that.
Awesome. Well, it's been great. It's been lovely to see you.
Thank you.
A long time, and thank you so much for joining us.